Well, do you want to start talking about Test of Courage now?
A Test of Courage.
Test of
Oh,
Courage.
who's the author?
Um,
I'm so bad at. I'm always trying
starts with a J.
That is
Starts
helpful.
with a J.
It is by. No, go back.
While you're looking that up,
sir.
Imperial Czar gave a super chat. Said, "Hey guys, have you thought about playing another playthrough of Jedi Survivor together after Eric finishes his run?"
That would be so fun.
I think I did mention it at one point, being
Yeah.
like, "Hey, it'd be cool to like run
Yeah.
through this," and I was like, "We'll do it on easy mode. I won't do it on hard difficulty, but it'd be fun to spend some time like just going through and playing it together and like
Absolutely.
looking at stuff and talking about it."
Yeah, I mean, I won't focus on it too much because there are other streams right here on this channel of me going through it that you can go back and watch. You can also watch separately Aaron go through it. I did hear there was one part in my stream last night where someone's like, "Oh my god, it would be so cool to combine this with Aaron's reaction to this part." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I wonder what that is." But yeah, that's that would be a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
So good idea, Czar.
we
Thank you
also-
for the super chat.
As a maybe a minor spoiler, but we have mailbag and stuff that happens, and we got a Star Wars game in that, and I was like, you know what, I've never played the Star Wars game, and then I started talking about like other Star Wars games that I've
Yeah.
never played or completed. Maybe we could play either together or me individually playing some of these other Star Wars games.
I'm 100% there for that. Anytime, anywhere you call me, I will be there to play that game.
That game.
Now, you're talking about the first of that game and then that game, right?
Well, yeah, because
Yeah,
I played
okay.
the first one a little bit, but I never
Yeah.
beat it, and then the second one I never played at all.
Do you want to tell the good people that follow us what game you're talking about, or do you want to, like,
How many other Star Wars games have like two of them? Is there a lot? It probably narrows it down
Force
quite a bit.
Unleashed, Jedi Knight, Dark Forces,
Knights of the Old Republic, Jedi Starfighter, had Starfighter,
yeah,
Rogue Squadron.
Rogue Squadron.
Well, it narrows it down a little bit. They can
Yeah,
guess from there.
it's one of those. All right, so A Test of Courage by Justina Ireland, and for us, narrated by Kaylor Lay, or Lee, maybe. Kaylor, that's a cool name.
Kaylor.
Keylor. That's like a Lord of the Rings name.
K-A-Y?
Son of Keenlor. Yeah,
Okay.
daughter. Sorry, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Because she had a very pretty voice.
Yep.
All
Very
right,
true.
Aaron. A Test of Courage. This is a story. I would say about kids, but not necessarily for kids.
Maybe not. No, not for
But
kids.
I think kids could
young
appreciate it.
adults that enjoy Star Wars at the very least.
I'm a 36-year-old man, and I appreciate it. I had a good time.
I thought it was a pretty decent book. It doesn't get into like so.
It's consumable.
This is Light of the Jedi light.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was Light of the Jedi,
Yeah.
and there's a lot more characters and a lot of things happening, and you really kind of saw the like terror of a lot more of it. I think there.
Yeah.
And in this one, it's kind of a similar-ish situation where there is a ship that we're on that has been destroyed,
Yeah.
and we're kind of seeing the aftermath, and it's a group that is surviving this attack, basically.
Yeah. No, just like my stream last night, the emergencies continue to ruin things, and I continue to enjoy them.
Sure, no.
No, it was fun. I guess the nature of Phase 1, and I can only talk about the first three things that we've seen so far, the first three novels, but it does kind of have a feeling of like this event is so big and so galaxy-wide that you're having these kind of stories like it's not like you have Light of the Jedi, and then you have this one, and then you have this one. You have Light of the Jedi, and then you have this one. It crosses over a bit.
This one's adjacent.
Yeah.
Like this one occurs before the end of Light of the Jedi
Yeah.
happened, right?
This kind of feels more like the end of Clone Wars, where you're seeing what's going on with Ahsoka, but you already know what's going on with Anakin. You can kind of like mix and match. 'Cause these things kind of fit in a little bit.
Yeah, because this one, like the ship they're on, is heading to the Starlight Beacon, which we know of from Light of the Jedi and the occurrences that happen there.
Yeah.
But we have like our own little group, which I couldn't help but relate it to like a D&D or Star Wars like tabletop like grouping here, where we have like here's a Jedi Knight,
Yeah.
here's a Jedi Padawan, here's someone who's a little bit more techie.
Yeah.
This person has been wanting to learn to be like a combat medic. So it's like they may not be great at some of these aspects, but they
all have something to
They all
bring to the
have a
table.
little bit of
Yeah.
something else. And
No,
stuff.
I mean,
So-
honestly, the more and more Dungeons and Dragons like content that I check out, because I never played it growing up.
Sure.
I never really, was exposed to it except for the stuff that we've been exposed to on Blind Wave. And for me, it really feels bare bones. These are the bare bones of storytelling.
yeah.
And having a crew like that, I mean, it sets up for some really interesting drama, even drama for younger audiences.
Yeah. So we had, I'd say 4 main characters. If you want to count the droid was J6. That's 5, I suppose.
Why would you not count J6?
Well, it's
Do you not count C-3PO? Do you not count HK-47? Do you not count Proxy? Do you not count
Proxy.
Chopper?
Proxy was barely involved in, and they kept trying to kill you the whole time.
I'm leaving.
No, get back here. But no, like there is some interesting stuff I do want to talk about with J6 at one point.
Okay,
but
yeah.
But we had Venestro, I believe is the full name.
Venestra, yeah, Rao.
Yeah, the Jedi Knight.
A 16-year-old Jedi Knight.
Yeah,
Nuts.
which did they say it was like the youngest or one of the youngest?
One of the youngest.
Like Jedi Knights. That
I don't
they've
think
had?
they said youngest. They did say though that her master was Stellan Gios.
Yeah, I recognize that name, but I couldn't place it.
Like there was Avar Chris,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's Elzar Mann, and they're like the two, like, oh yeah, those two are really together. But then every once in a while there's a Ron, Riesling, that comes on, and that's Stellan.
That's Stellan.
So her
Okay.
master we are familiar with.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
And I mean Venestra, like, I mean she's one of my favorite characters of this one.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sure.
she definitely has a role to fill in that, like, I wonder if Skeleton Crew will feel this way. Like, this is a story about children, in a way, right? Like, kind of losing innocence and finding their way into some form of adulthood, where
Yeah.
their adulthood's going to be. But you kind of feel like Venestra's already kind of there because she is so accomplished at such a young age that she almost takes on, like, a mentor role, and then literally takes on the mentor role, I guess,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
So I really like her.
No, I did too. The
Knighted at 15.
15.
That's right, yeah.
The story's progression and stuff, because like as I mentioned, like kind of like Light of the Jedi, there is it's not an accident. There is a sabotage on a ship, destroying the ship. But one of the things that I really enjoyed was when part of the ship gets opened up and the what's it called, bulkhead wasn't closing up. I loved her like the one master's there is like, get that closed.
Yeah.
And she jumps towards this gaping hole of space.
Being sucked out.
And I just thought it was a really cool scene
Yeah.
of like, let me take care of this chair and break it up so that we can get this closed up and get these people out of here kind of
Yeah.
thing. It was just a really cool scene.
Yeah, the beginning of the book had that feeling of like, oh, these people seem pretty cool, and they're gone.
Yeah, sure.
Like Jedi Master Doug, like Douglas.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this guy seems like he's gonna be pretty.
Yeah.
And then and that's why it's good drama. You're immediately where those kids are. It's like, oh, I had so much more time that I've now lost with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
That's the master of Imri.
Yep. Imri. I have the names. Cantaros.
Cantaros.
Yes, Imri.
So I enjoyed what we saw of their, which wasn't much, of their master Padawan relationship.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed Douglas, and like when things started going down, like he is making sure like he's holding everyone at the table. I love that he made the sacrifice play of let me get these kids out of here, and he's like force pushed back to get them away while the door's shut and stuff. But no, you're right. Like there's an element there where you're like, oh man, this guy's pretty cool. Oh, what?
I know.
So they're just alone now?
Yeah, I know. Like I learned more about Master Douglas from Imri's grief than I did about just being with the character.
Yeah,
know?
sure. No, I agree. And in
So Imri being another Jedi,
Yeah.
Padawan, younger. I think around 12, 13 maybe?
I don't remember the age of Imri.
No, Imri's a little older. The other two that we're going to be getting to, they're 12 years old. They're younger kids. But Imri, I at least remember that he's taller than Venestra, but he's still younger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was going to say one of the other ones, Honesty,
Honesty,
which is not a Jedi. It's just a boy, a kid of.
He's from the Dao Nan sector.
Yeah.
And his father was the ambassador of Dao Nan. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, being a kid of a diplomat, he's kind of put on this ship to like adventure and see the galaxy before kind of committing himself to being.
Yeah.
His mom was worried about him being a combat medic for a war that's never gonna come, kind of thing. So he had kind of an interesting background.
It's
of
kind
what
of
he was
similar
doing.
to a Jedi. Like he's at the point of his life where he's going through something called a metamorphosis trial, which is like you kind of like pick the direction you go in, and you go off to have kind of like a vision quest for it, or like your college, before you go to college, maybe you go and see the world a little bit.
Yeah,
that type
sure.
of thing, right?
Get an
What the
idea of-
Amish do, they send their kids out like, go experience the world, the English, and then come back,
then come back.
never now deny it all.
But I know it's real.
Yeah, but I know only a few Amish communities do that.
Sure.
Yeah, so Honesty, Emery, and then we had the last one, which is Avon Staros.
Yeah, which honestly may have been my favorite. I really liked Vern, but I think Avon
Yeah.
was my favorite because of
Yeah.
the techiness.
The
And also,
techiness.
like,
The
I don't
curiosity,
know. Yeah, there was an element
the
of
way
just,
she treats her droid. Like that.
Yeah. Like, one of the things, and it really works well, is when they're trying to get off this ship, like, they're coming to these doors that are blocked and everything.
Yep.
And Vern has to be like, stop going ahead. There could be danger. But they're just just charging through. It was just, I just really enjoyed the character of Avon.
Yeah, me too. I love the way that she interacts and changes J6. Like, she acts upon J6 to give J6 more free will, which is generally like the opposite. Usually you act upon somebody and take away free will, but she's acting upon and giving more free will. Like, it makes me think, like, this J6 storyline, like, kind of shares some similarities with, like, L3 from the Solo movie.
Yeah,
Right?
I definitely, I wrote down about like droid like L3, and
Yeah.
it reminded me a lot like her. But
Yeah.
I like a scene. It's later in the book when they're trying to figure out how to come upon these bad guys, and she's like, "Oh, hang on a second," and she just went out there and was like, "What is she doing?"
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh, improving.
Yeah.
This is amazing!" Like,
Yeah.
and Avon's just like so excited. He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, she's pretending to do this." It's like she's just making up as her go.
I know.
I didn't program her for that. This is so cool.
such
and
a,
she was so excited about it. And it
It's
was
such a
just fun.
contrast to 3PO. Like,
Oh, yeah,
3PO
for
is
sure.
a protocol droid. He does things by the book, and when you don't do them by the book, he freaks out, and you have to shut him off because he goes crazy. He starts telling you odds that mean nothing.
Yeah, I don't remember the odds. No,
So like having that almost soul being put into a droid by like a girl that likes to tinker with things.
Yeah.
It gives you a feeling of like young Anakin a little bit, but no force, more curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And also all these kids have sad stories.
oh yeah, sure. I mean, I think it was Avon who had to eat the Jabba stew all the time, right?
Jabba's too.
So, not good.
I don't know. I try it out. I try everything once.
But no, for the story and stuff, like, what did you think? Like, we have the beginning started off with like two characters. I'm like, oh, I don't know, well, who are these characters? And they're the saboteurs on this ship that are going to be. They're taking this ship out, trying to like prove a point that the Nihil is going to control the outer sectors and stuff or something like that.
Yeah,
I believe.
they specifically are
they're like-
wanting to keep the down end sector out of Republic control.
Yeah, like we do this and it's going to scare them away kind of idea. And it's they kind of come back later on, which I'm glad because like you want to have some enemies, and it's also trying to get like these guys caused this. I want to see repercussions for them happen.
Yeah, like I mean, the large majority of the book, these kids are feeling grief and have no one to direct it to.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the first time they're dealing with this type of feeling. So it's really new, but it's really powerful, and you got, everything. And then when you suddenly have an enemy to look at, it gives you focus. And one of the things the dark side gives you is focus.
Yeah.
And that happens to one of our characters.
With Emery, the one thing I really liked was Honesty was relating the master to his father, who he just lost.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that was my master, that was my dad. And it's like, well, what did he do? And he's like, he like kind of named off. It's like, well, he did this and this and this. Like, that sounds like a parent, like, and it's pretty true. Where it's like, these Padawans are taken. They don't have
the
their
saddest
family.
thing about being a Jedi is you don't have any parents to love you unconditionally.
It's like your mentor, your master is the closest thing you have to like a parent, to a guiding, a guiding figure to your life and what you're supposed to do. Like Qui-Gon to Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
So like having that and having that realization to Emery about like, I don't have a parent, but that's the closest thing to a parent I've ever had and may ever have again was a sad moment. But I did like that. But you talking about like the dark side and everything too. There's there is an aspect with Emery, and I always feel weird talking around different aspects of the spoilers and stuff like that too. But like, you guys should have read it. Having Emery like teaming up with Honesty to try to take out these saboteurs, and having this anger that eventually goes on to fight Vern, because like it's like, well, if you won't let me kill them, then I have to kill you.
Yeah.
Like there's
if
that
you're not
dark,
with me.
You're my enemy. Like there's that enemy aspect that he puts there because of that dark side temptation. But I liked where it went later on, where it was I think it was Vern who said, I think it was Vern. They said like it's not about like you fell to the dark side or were tempted by it. It's that you aren't corrupted by it, and you continue those temptations
Yeah.
to stop the corruption.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's gonna keep coming back.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
gonna feel these temptations
Oh,
through
absolutely.
your life,
No,
but
dude, that's-
it's about
oh,
stopping that.
That's one of the things that get me going when I read certain opinions about like the sequel trilogy of Luke Skywalker.
I said to you earlier today, I was like, it's one of my tangents. I might have a couple of tangents I might go on. This was one of the same kind of ideas where like
Go for it.
there was this that I was reading and like thinking about, and there was like something I saw where like someone did a tweet about something like about Luke Skywalker, and I was like kind of connecting them where like the same idea of like fighting the darkness works with Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens all the way back into like Empire Strikes Back, to where like you're being in Empire, Luke has these vision of Han and Leia, and they're gonna die, and he acts on that, and he goes,
and he's 20.
Yeah, right.
He's so young.
Yeah,
I know if you're young, that doesn't sound very old, but to me, that's like, oh, he's a child.
Sure.
You know?
And it doesn't go well. He falls into a trap. He loses his hand. Like we know that.
Yeah.
And then later on, like in The Last Jedi, I know some people were upset with like you found Luke and he throws his lightsaber away.
What? I thought he dealt with these feelings when he was 20, and then would never feel them ever again.
But you have his the story that he tells about him and Ben, right? And then we also get that later on with Kylo telling us, here's the story that, he was there and he's going to kill me and I fought back and stuff. And then you kind of get a third story where it's like, that's probably more true because it seems to be in the middle of it all.
Which is just straight up what Obi-Wan's talking about when he says the truth depends on our own point of view.
Sure, yeah.
Like, that's the point. Like, Ryan Johnson gets it.
Yeah, right? I think there's a through line that didn't go through all the movies, but I don't think that, like, some of the choices are just off the wall and ridiculous.
No, of course not.
When you have Return of the Jedi,
but just
in a
don't throw the
similar
baby
sense,
out the bathwater. You know?
Yeah. In a similar sense, in Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker is going to save his father. And then he is, Vader's talking. He's like, "Oh, your sister," and he starts going through all that. And he's like, "No!" And then he, in the most aggressive fight that he has in that moment, almost kills his father, cuts off his hand, and then comes to realization and stops himself.
The only reason he doesn't kill him is because Vader's Vader.
Yeah, and he wants to be a Jedi like his father before him, right? Like he stops it.
Pure rage.
Yeah.
In service of his sister, that's the closest he's getting to the dark side at that moment. You know?
So when you go later on to like Ben and that aspect, and he's worried, right? Like there's like this never-ending cycle of like dark side, and are we keeping this cycle of violence going to where there's it just keeps coming around, right? Like Luke's like, oh well, we stopped the Empire, it should stop, but it's still going on. So he's cut himself off from the Force, but he does that after he has this Ben moment where he has this vision and he sees terrible things that Ben's going to do, but he hasn't done them yet, and he has that moment where he could kill him. But he stops himself like he stops himself from Vader. And I think Luke, like this book was talking about, it shows those times where it's like the dark side is going to keep tempting you constantly. But it's about how you handle that and how you stop those temptations that make you a Jedi.
And dude, it is that. It's also dealing with the fear Luke now knows that just a moment's hesitation can ruin everything. Not even what he did or didn't do.
Yeah.
Just the idea of thinking like, oh my God, what if I could stop Darth Vader before he did all the terrible things? Not, let me try to save what's left of Anakin Skywalker inside the husk of this fascist, evil son of a bitch that does not deserve any redemption. But Luke loves him unconditionally. And he hesitated way longer to save his dad in Return of the Jedi when he was, I'm gonna kill this guy. You're not going after Leia, I love that moment. The more and more times I watch The Last Jedi, the better and better and better it gets.
Sure.
And the more intolerant I am of other views.
Sure. No,
I know that's an asshole thing to say.
Yeah.
But
No,
I mean, be honest.
I think it's finding those connections is sometimes tricky, and I think one of the things too with going through these books is like I may not have thought about that the same way had I not been reading this and having that exact same lesson being told to a young adult, as like what Star Wars has kind of been saying through the movies anyway,
Absolutely.
And Luke's just a really good example of that. And
He's
I was like, that's really cool to have like that as a similar theme that was already in the movies. It was in the original trilogy. and it's also like in this High Republic book.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so important for our daily lives. I mean, how many people that struggle with addictions, right? Like, go to an alcoholic and say, hey, so I realize that you're 20 years sober, so it must be really easy for you, and you never slip or you never get tempted. And they're going to look at you like, what are you talking about? It's every day.
Sure.
Like, you don't get it, like that's true of a lot of things in our life. And I like that we can have a story like this that's generally geared for younger people with younger characters. We can see it in Luke Skywalker, who's 20, 22, and we were watching it when we were younger, and we're aspirating to that. And then I can also have the same experience when I'm in my 30s, looking at a Luke Skywalker that's in his 60s, and I can be like, well, he still does it, and he can still be my hero.
Mm-hmm.
That's great stuff.
Yeah. No, it's really good. And then like. He's so worried about that kind of stuff that he cuts himself off from the Force.
Yeah.
It's why he doesn't notice like where's Han,
Yeah.
those kind of things too. But it's that fear and that violent cycle that he has that he's like, I'm gonna do this so that it doesn't happen anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And had he not done that, how different could things have been
Exactly.
later on?
Yeah.
And also Obi-Wan did that.
Obi-Wan
Like we
did
have evidence of like him doing the exact same thing, being like, it's too much of a danger for me to do this.
Yeah.
I have to cut myself off. I'll watch this young kid. And I'm not going to be there to help anything. But then he has to get summoned back and help and reconnect himself, which is the same thing that Luke does.
Yeah.
So
it's the destiny of the Jedi to confront fear.
Yeah.
And then either face it or turn your back on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to. I haven't gotten to watch those 3 again with my kids yet. I've been still trying to we've had a lot of dips in our consistency of watching stuff.
Sure.
But I'm wanting to finish Bad Batch season 2 with them.
Yeah.
Especially with 3 coming back, and then we have Ahsoka and those 3 movies. So I'm hoping to get those done here in the next probably couple months.
Gotcha.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Good. I'm excited for you and your family.
Yeah. Yes. All right. But anyway, I forget what we were talking about in the book, but yeah, that was one of the things.
We've covered basically the four
characters.
Five main characters.
I think I put J6 with Avon.
I get what you mean.
Like, if Avon wasn't there, would J6 be there? J6 probably wouldn't be there alone.
Well, yeah, true. But if Avon weren't there, Vanestra wouldn't be there because Vanestra is that's her mission is protect that kid.
Sure.
So
yeah, I love J6 though, being like, well, if it all blew up, I wouldn't die. I would just be floating through space, freezing, and eventually find myself,
Yeah, which is so Rogue One, K2SO.
Yeah.
Is like, you'll explode. I will be fine.
Yeah.
When they're going to the gate. Very much so.
So J6 was interesting, and I love the L3
Yeah.
K2 kind of feel of this, where it's like it has its own ideas of what it wants to be, and it's like, I'm here to protect this person, and I'm also a bodyguard.
Did you look at
which was
the
great.
cover or the picture of J6 that Nexus gave to
I
us?
did. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like
Hu Yang?
Oh, yeah, Hu Yang is what that's the first kind of feeling I got from it.
And then now that I've experienced some more droids from the High Republic era in other things, I'm like, oh, okay, they kind of have a look. They kind of have a shape, protocol droids. They kind of have that, like, elongated, head here. Mm-hmm. There's a decent amount of droids that I saw just last night that I'm like, oh, they kind of have that look.
Very similar.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't have this droid before I watched or played that stuff,
sense,
So,
it's in the forefront of my mind.
yeah. No, it's interesting the way that we, like, experiencing this while doing this, like, you'll get different things. So, like, I was thinking about stuff from Jedi with, like, previous things we did because I played it earlier, you know? And then, like, you're thinking about it now, and it's just it's fun
I mean, I
those.
have to thank Nexus, who's in chat right now, one of our moderators, and helps us, like, figure out the order to do certain things and stuff like that. And he purposely is like, I want you to get back into High Republic before you start Survivor. So I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense now that I've checked out some Survivor. And it's been so long. I'm sure most people that are interested in staying away from spoilers have, but it's just cool to see that in a game like that. It feels like, even though I've had that feeling for so many times now, like, oh my gosh, animation and live action. Oh my God, like crossing over the different mediums and stuff. But it's always validating whenever, something that I think a lot of people consider like, yeah, I love Star Wars, I'm diehard, but I don't consume everything. And it's cool when that stuff can trickle over into other things that are more consumable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I enjoyed the general story and adventure they had.
Pretty basic.
It is fairly basic.
Yeah.
I mean, most of it's they get off the ship and survive that. crash land on another planet.
Yeah.
And then it's about them trying to survive on that.
Oh yeah,
which-
it's a stripped down version of what we just kind of read with Vader and Palpatine in a way.
kind of, yeah.
Surviving and
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but I did enjoy that they got their like little monkey pet thing for a minute there. Though I was
Yep.
kind of sad whenever they got rid of the little
It
monkey
was
pet thing.
immediately ripped away from you, and like the most sad and then I heard a gunshot, and then its body flew out, and then it's dead. I'm like, Jesus, author.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, well, all right. Well, screw these bad guys,
Yeah,
like
it was
that's-
like a handsy or something like that because they're handsy. I can't remember
I think
exactly
that
what the name was.
they named it something like
And it
that.
started with a C, the nickname. But yeah, that was sad as hell. But I mean, you know, it just fuels what Emery's feeling.
Yeah.
Which is just like these people, like I care so much about the sanctity of life, and these people have no regard.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's what you're going to do, that's what you're going to get. You know,
Yeah.
like it's very easy to think you're doing the right thing. And then when someone tries to stop you from doing that, it's easy to, you know, especially when you have red in your eyes, it's easy to think, oh, now they're not doing the right thing. Now I got to deal with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Vern. First off, their lightsaber was great.
The lightsaber fight?
I love that. Well, Vern's lightsaber was great. I love that
lightsaber.
they had a lightsaber,
Yep.
and then they had augmented it to also be able to turn into a light whip, which I was like, oh, sweet. Like High Republic light whip, this would be sweet to have. And they're fairly young, so like, you know, young people, they're better at learning things.
True.
So I feel like she will be very good with this as she gets older because she's starting with it fairly young.
Yeah.
But with that, they also talked about like it's looked at as like a Darksider weapon and stuff too. They talked about the Night Sisters having it. They talked about what was it, like the Sith War. And they're like, no, Jedi used it during the Sith War to help fight the Sith, you know? And I was like, oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So I thought that
we'll later see the slavers in Clone Wars using light whips. So yeah, it does have some dark connotations.
yeah,
But I mean, anything can be used for good or for evil.
sure.
But I will just say I've never been a fan of a light whip.
Really?
But it's just purely from like a choreography standpoint. It's just not my favorite.
Is it light whip or whips in general? Do you
light
like
whip.
Indiana Jones with the whip?
Yeah.
That's okay.
It's light whip. I take a Matt Stover, Revenge of the Sith, Count Dooku stance when it comes to my lightsabers, which is like if you're not good with a lightsaber blade, you ain't good. All these other things, whips, double, General Grievous spinning, saws and ones that fly. It's like no, you gotta be good with these 38 inches.
But you get more range.
Yeah,
you know.
I know.
If you can
I'm
switch
not
between
saying
the
I'm
two,
right. I'm
Yeah,
saying I'm stubborn.
Yeah, for sure. There's situations where you need that stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
I know, and I would do poorly in those
Like
situations.
you know how important pikemen were in like the like fighting horses.
Yeah,
and stuff?
but if they could just be like, then they might not even do it. You know how heavy a pike is? You know how long they have to carry that? By the time I get to the wall, I've marched for 40 days carrying this stupid thing. I'm just kidding.
So
No, I just, it's just not my thing.
sure.
Like, the Inquisitor lightsaber. It is not my thing. But I can enjoy it for what it is. I can even enjoy good choreography with it.
Sure. And that one I think is
Yeah.
definitely a thing where it's like because you're not like really trained,
Yeah.
it's kind of a crutch in a way. That's why it spins and stuff
Yeah.
and helps augment what you can do.
Yeah.
Whereas her using the light whip, I thought was cool because like it's great. She was using it to clear stuff out.
Yeah.
Like right, it's so much faster. It can reach further, and that's great.
Yeah.
You have to be careful with how you use it because you can hit behind you. But her fight against Emery, like I really like whenever like you get him disarmed, and she like kind of waits for him to go for it and is like, don't do this, and he does. So she gives like a warning, like in between, like shh, and it's like.
Oh,
Okay,
she
well,
has
now
a
what?
high ground moment.
Yeah, and it's like, don't do this.
Yeah.
So he goes again. So now she's like, I'm just getting that lightsaber, and she just cuts the lightsaber in half with the whip and stuff. But it was just so cool to see like that aspect and have a light whip show up in the High Republic.
True. Yeah.
So
No, I think that in trying to discover or at least reveal my biases against stuff like that, it was very prominent in the fan film community, like around the time of the prequels, to like, all right, I'm gonna do some crazy stuff. I'm gonna do black lightsabers, and I'm gonna do a light whip, and like the results with the technology at the time and the scale of the people doing it was not great.
Sure.
You know,
Okay.
like I've only seen one fan film that did a light whip that I like. Okay, that was cool. You know, it was one of the lightsaber choreography contest entries.
Sure. The
Well, what's her name? You know what I'm
Maxwell?
talking about. Yeah, Maxwell Sweat. Yeah. Now they did one. I was like, if you're gonna do it, that looks cool. You know.
Yeah, I always
It's like
enjoyed.
it's like Trilla in Jedi Fallen Order. It's like she has that dumb lightsaber, but if you're gonna do it, she's at least cool with it.
Yeah.
She's not flying around everywhere.
There's one polearm version that I saw that I thought was really cool. Which is
Polearm
like
lightsaber?
lightsaber, where it's not like the whole saber is like this tall, and then
Yeah.
it ignites the saber itself up here.
Sure.
But it was like there is a lightsaber, and then if you like twisted it, extended it, but it's all blade, and this piece moved up and down, so you could also block here, and it's dangerous.
Yeah.
But you can hold it and maneuver that, or
Yeah.
you can. I just thought that was really cool, to where you could like slide up and down the pole.
I think they're cool.
So that's what I like about it. Plus, it also made it as opposed to most pole arms, where it's
Yeah.
like a spear is really only dangerous on the end, right?
Yeah.
That's the pokey part. That's dangerous. This made it like I could still swipe you with this,
Sure.
or I could even push it like this,
Yeah.
and it was just a lot of
I guess
options.
maybe I go back to the Kanan training Sabine.
Sure.
And she's kind of bringing like some of the Mandalorian tricks in, and he kind of is like, "Hey, these tricks might save your life like once or twice, but they're not going to keep you alive in the long run.
Sure.
You are going to keep you alive in the long run. So it doesn't matter what weapon you use, as long as you are letting the Force flow through you. In which case, use whatever you want.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
But
I
I'll
would say
stick with the single.
she was using that to supplement for the Force.
Yeah.
So like, I agree with him,
Yeah.
but it's also coming from the Jedi who's using the Force to see and augment his abilities too. You know.
Yeah.
So I get both sides of that a little
Sure.
bit. But no, just there was some different history elements. I like learning about the light whip a little bit more, and just getting an idea of like she was even afraid to show it.
Yeah.
Like she was like, should I show them this? It kind of has a bad, it's like when you, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something you have where it's like, this isn't necessarily bad, but a lot of people look at this as like, it's probably bad.
Well,
you
and
know?
also
So I thought
like
that was interesting.
it is effectively a trick weapon.
Yeah.
That you like, it tricks you into a false safe security. It's like, oh, use a lightsaber, bam, lightsaber whip. You know.
Yeah.
So you don't tell people.
Yeah. No.
You don't ever know who you're gonna fight.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like if I was Darth
Yeah.
Maul, I would fight with one blade.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then like at
how many
some
trick
point, maybe
weapons I have around the set in case I need to take you out? Of course you don't. No, cold. What's so cold?
I'm keeping this.
Don't press that.
If I go down, I'm taking you with me. Gonk, I'm sorry, you're just in the crossfire. A few other things I thought that were kind of interesting was that I don't remember learning, and maybe they said it in Light of the Jedi, but that Trandoshans grow their limbs back. I'm trying to remember if I knew that. When I heard that, I'm like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, did I know that? And I don't know. I don't remember when or if I would have learned that at some point. But I thought it was a cool mention because, like, Avon met Skier at the end of this, who has just recently came from the Light of the Jedi situation, and has lost an arm in that.
Yeah.
And in doing so, she's like, "Oh man!" And it's like, "Don't ask about his arm.
Yeah.
Don't quit asking. Don't. I know you're excited. Just don't." But she's like, "I want to know how long it's gonna take to grow.
Yeah.
You know,
How functional is it?
Yeah.
Like,
when does it start working and stuff?
Week by week, that type of thing.
Yeah.
That's
But
really interesting.
I found it to be kind of cool.
Maybe. See, I want to say, like when I heard that, I wasn't surprised at all. But maybe I was assuming that was the case and never actually told that Trandoshans do it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like,
Yeah.
well, that's cool. Did I know this? Because not every lizard can do that.
Like I assume Chewbacca, when he gets wet, shakes and gets it all off, like a dog.
Okay.
You know, like that.
Sure.
I just assume that. But if I was told it, I'd be like, well, yeah, of course, he's a dog. But if someone's like, they never actually said that, I'd be like, oh, okay, well,
It's the first time we learned that.
I just thought that was the case.
Did you know that Chewbacca gets a haircut? He would normally look like Cousin It.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
no, I didn't know
Does
that.
he have like
Did
an
I have-
undercoat that develops for
Did I ever know that
Kashyyyk
before?
in winter? You know, I don't know.
I don't know either. But it's just little things like that. Sometimes are cool. The other one that I thought was interesting was, it was something along these lines where it's like the Mon Cal find it rude to sneeze.
Yeah,
And I was like,
that made me laugh.
well, that's interesting. And I was like, I wonder why. Is it because you're in the water or something?
Well,
Or,
yeah,
you know,
and then
like,
it's floating around. You know?
yeah. I was just like, I wonder what exactly that.
Like generally on Earth or Earth-like planet, you sneeze, it goes down. You know, but if you sneeze in the water, like you're just in snotty water now.
I guess, yeah. But like, don't they? Where's their bathroom?
They have like a tube. sucks it all up.
in the water.
I think so.
So they don't like.
I don't think they just go.
Okay, because so that's what fish do, and they're like a fish people. So I didn't.
That's what apparently before plumbing. That's what Hogwarts students used to do.
They used to.
They would just go wherever and then vanish it away.
Oh,
That's
you
what J.K. Rowling said, and that was important information, so I know it.
But you don't know where it goes, right?
Just away.
Vanishing away, it goes somewhere,
Do
right?
you think about where your shit goes when you just flush? I don't think about it at all.
I do, because I have a septic tank, and when that stuff gets
I don't know where it
full, I
goes.
have to deal with that.
I have a septic tank too. I just haven't lived there long enough to deal with it.
And then another theme that they had, I don't know if theme's the right word. It's not something that we've never heard before, but a common thing that happened as they were like having their struggles and talking about, the loss of their master, or not their master, but, it could be the loss of Emery's master. It could
Their
be the loss of
authority
their father,
figures.
a loss of whatever. How could this happen? How could the Force allow this and stuff?
Their
And
foundation.
it kept coming back to the idea of like everything is as the Force wills it, which is a thing that we've heard many times. I'm pretty sure Qui-Gon has said it. I'm pretty sure Obi-Wan has said it. Like it's mentioned a lot.
Yeah,
and,
Chirrut Imwe.
Yeah, and it started to make me think more about like, does any Star Wars character get a choice in what they do? Or is it all like a predetermined destination kind of thing?
I mean, do you want to get into this? Because I could be like, do you think you have a choice
This
for
was
the
my
things
second.
you do?
This is my second tangent thing, right? So
Aaron, this year I became a determinist.
in that, like, do I have a determining factor in what I get to do? Like, that's under the idea of like, is there a higher power that thus determines my choices and where I go? And I don't know for sure if there is. But in the Star Wars realm, I do.
Yep.
Like I know the Force does exist. I've seen the power it has.
But
I've seen.
Does it have a will?
I don't know. They say the
our
wills,
characters
right?
just believe it has a will?
I don't know. There's definitely like things that have happened. I mean, Luke shooting and trusting in the Force to shoot those missiles. Does that mean he has to focus his skill? Or does that mean he's like trusting the Force? Come on, bam, and the Force is like, all right, I got it. I got it from here, bud.
Right.
Bam, you're the hero now.
Or is he just in the zone?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yoda
Yoda
just sinking three shot.
Yoda goes to get visions and stuff in Clone Wars and
Yeah.
sees all the little mask creatures on that planet, and that's like a heightened Force location, and they seem to have some kind of urgency. We've seen the Mortis gods, like they are called gods. They seem to have some kind of control and wanted Anakin to join them, though Anakin didn't take his spot like they wanted him to.
Yep.
But they also like there's a fight and their son did some stuff and like people were dying and he's like, I'm getting out of here. This place is crazy. I don't really know. So like, I guess he had a choice in that aspect, I suppose. But the gods were actually there asking them.
Yeah.
Right. Like the father was there, like, hey, we want you to do this. And I don't know if none of the other stuff happened and the son didn't do that, how much of a choice Anakin would have gotten. I don't know for sure.
I guess my real answer is it doesn't matter if they have a choice or not, because your choices still mean something. Like, even if you're predetermined to side with your wife because that's what you do whenever you're a husband. You want to be a union of of two people that come together and are partners in life. So inevitably, when there's something that goes, that is causing my wife pain versus not, I'm going to go with the thing that doesn't, And do I have a choice? Not really, because I love my wife. But also, it's because I choose to love my wife, and I made that choice a long time ago, that I make that choice, and it does mean something. So, like, you can look at it both ways. Sure. It doesn't invalidate necessarily if you say, like, there is no choice, because what do you believe?
Yeah, but in that sense, you have something, like, definitely there that you can see the repercussions of whatever, too. Like, if the Force, everything is as it wills, as the Force wills it, like, them getting off the ship wasn't their choice. It was going to happen regardless, right? Or the ship was going to blow up and kill all these people regardless. I mean, like, it's kind of how could the Force allow this to happen? So I'm like, is there the choice the Nihil are making, or are they disconnected from the Force? Luke, took away the Force, right? So like that must have been a choice from him.
Away from it, yeah.
Or did the Force want him to do that? There's just some of those kind of thoughts I was having of like, is Star Wars an actual place with choices, or is it all predetermined in a way? But it's also all storytelling, so yes.
What would Qui-Gon say?
Don't worry about it, live in the moment, I guess.
Yeah. Because I mean, choices are really complicated. Like you can
Sure.
you can think you have a dichotomy. I can do this or I can do this, but what you're not thinking about is the stuff you're ignorant about, and that there's always other choices. You can always do different things. Maybe there's a million choices, But at this moment, where am I? Make a decision, go, and do that step by step. That is where the living force is. There's the cosmic force, and there's what keeps, the stars rotating and orbiting, and, what keeps life going. And there's the big, maxi big, the force.
Sure.
But Qui-Gon will tell you, like, what do you think right now? Decide. Go. Use your instincts. Listen to the midichlorians. They'll tell you,
Yeah, but aren't they connected to the Force?
They are, but you're making that decision to be in the moment.
When Obi-Wan is killed on the Death Star and Luke is standing there and he's no, and he's shooting and he's like, run, Luke, and you hear Obi-Wan say that.
Yeah.
Is Obi-Wan saying that?
Yeah.
Is the Force using his voice to tell him to try to get Luke to go because it wants Luke to go, and there really isn't an Obi-Wan saying that at the moment? I'm just like, how much of the Force powers is there? And can the Force just like, you know what? Qui-Gon just dead.
Yeah.
But I'm going to use his voice to tell Yoda this stuff to get him on the track that I want him to be to help with this. You know
Look,
what I mean?
I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit. So I'll just say, it's Obi-Wan. You hear him? Who played that? Who was credited? Who got paid for that line?
Yeah, sure. No, I get you.
But also, Obi-Wan said, like, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you possibly can imagine. I can talk to the people alive while I'm dead.
That's what he believes.
Well, he was vindicated.
Because of a Force ghost of Qui-Gon telling him so.
Exactly.
Which is the Force telling him so.
Sure, yeah.
So how much control does the Force have versus individuals?
How much faith
so I don't know. I was just
is
curious on that.
required to believe?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right?
Yeah. Enough to push you over that edge, right?
Like if I went to church and, the priest started levitating people in the in the congregation.
Yeah, I'd probably
like,
oh
God,
dang,
I'd be like the Ewok being like, God is real and he is gold.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would require less faith to believe in something like that. And Jedi and people that are around them, they see these miracles happen every day.
Yeah.
So I think it takes less faith, but it doesn't rob somebody of when given a choice. I think it's really easy to go like, what does it even matter? What if this is God's plan or this is the will of the Force? Qui-Gon would tell you like, hey, you're right here. Don't think about this. Here, go.
Sure.
And that's, I think,
it's just like
a big lesson for all of us.
Anakin going and stopping Mace from stopping Sidious.
Yeah.
Like that kind of moment there. Like, is that his choice? Did he make the choice?
Yeah, he did.
Or is there also like the Force has pushed him on this route to where he feels he made the choice because it gave him visions of his wife dying. It's given him like all these different elements and molded him to this point. But also, did Palpatine do? I don't know. So I was just thinking about that.
I'll give you the ultimate, and we already talked about it this episode of Badonka Gong. I think we probably talk about it every episode of Badonka Gong.
Probably, yeah.
When Anakin Skywalker hears Luke Skywalker say, "Father, please help me," in the moment, he's asked, "Hey, can you do something?" And Anakin goes, "Yeah, I can." He stays in the moment. He does what Qui-Gon tells him to do. It doesn't matter that I'm Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, that has subjugated the entire galaxy for 20 years. In this moment, my son's asking for my help, and what can I do? I can throw this old geezer in this hole.
Yeah.
And he does it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what the will of the Force is. It doesn't matter what the balance of the Force is. It doesn't matter what wise priests and old sages are going to talk about. Oh, this was a prophecy, and this is the chosen one. No. Throw that out the window just like you do that old man.
So it's not like the Force
it's a father
brought
that
them
chooses
together,
to help his son.
led these choices to these points
Maybe.
so that these people would make this decision?
Maybe, but I think that's unknowable. What I do know is that I, right now, am being asked by my son to save him, and I can do it. And I can make that choice. Regardless if that choice is an illusion or not, it's still something that I can act upon in the moment, in the living Force, not the cosmic.
I don't know.
Come back next Sunday for another sermon.
Maybe we'll talk to Chad about that later on and see if they have any questions about it.
Maybe.
But it was just something I saw like every time because they said it multiple times in this.
They did.
And I was just like, man, if that's the case, all those people are going to die and there's no point because like you guys got out of there. That's what the Force wanted. Like there's no real choice, but maybe there is.
Everybody dies.
So I don't know. They do, but usually not on exploding spaceships. Unless you're in space a lot, then I guess you're more likely to die on an exploding spaceship.
I mean, if I never get in a car again, I'll never be in a car accident.
Unless you cross the street.
What if I stay in the woods?
You never know. Someone could be driving through the woods.
I'll drive in the woods.
Let's see, what else did I have? This one was, like we said before, it was a fairly short book. So there was a few points that I wanted to make sure that I got to mention and whatnot. I thought it was cool to get Master Skier, and they had the mention of like Starlight Beacon and Legacy Run, and just more connections to the previous books that we had already covered.
Every time they mention Starlight Beacon, like I'm liking what we're getting to the High Republic, but every time they talk about it and like what it's supposed to do and like the frontiers it's going to cross and the planets it's going to connect and all the good it can do, I keep wanting to be like, can we do that? I want to read a book about that. It's always about, hey, this is around, and then these damn pirates come out and start, and then the sky's exploding.
We're in the beginning.
I know. I'm impatient.
It has to get through.
I know
More things.
I'm just really excited by
More story
the world
aspects.
they've created, and like the beacon sounds so cool, and I want to see it done.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get there, I believe, probably.
I'm saying I got to see what Death Star does like a bunch of times.
Well, yeah,
I
but
got to see what Starkiller Base does. I want to see what Skylight Beacon does.
But you had to wait through, the whole movie to see.
Alderaan
not the
blew
whole
up.
movie.
Alderaan blew
halfway
up in
through
like
or so.
an hour.
But you still got to sit there and watch this farm boy like drive through the desert and pick up a
and
droid.
I've read 3 books.
Yeah, but that's that part. And we jump around a little bit.
We do.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's most of my like major notes of things I wanted to make sure that I got to talk about and stuff. I like I said, the themes and stuff of the book, I like a lot of that. Mm-hmm. The idea of the dark side always tempting, and having 2 Jedi and then 2 non-Jedi that are with us. Now, the one question I did have that I hope we get more later on is that at the very end, I mentioned the light whip cutting that lightsaber in half.
Mm-hmm.
And then Avon was kind of like, well, no one's going to miss a broken lightsaber,
Yeah, I love
right?
that ending for her.
So I just put this in my bag, and I was like, man, I wonder where that goes, or
I do
if
too.
it comes back, or what,
I'm of 2 minds on it because I agree with you. Like, ooh, that's cool, but also like that's a cool ending for a character to be like, ooh.
But what do you do with that?
What? Yeah, that's so interesting. Like the possibility, and there's almost like it's like a poetry of like never getting that answer because then the possibilities are never answered for you.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
You know,
do they make a
use your
weapon?
imagination.
Do they give it to J6? Do they find a way to make lightsabers better?
Right? I don't know.
Like, she would be the person that, like, I would believe if she got it, we have lightsabers that still have a battery pack to them, and then she makes them wireless.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
I could see her being that kind of person.
Yeah.
But I don't know where we go with that from here. So
She's
I'm
like the
interested
person
to
that
see if
like
that comes back.
turns on like we'll do a practice mode. You know?
Yeah.
Or like in the middle of a fight, I'm gonna make it 3 meters.
It's longer. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So-
Or I'm just gonna make a lightsaber gun that can't be blocked.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like Ezra?
Yeah.
But they block that.
Stormtroopers get it.
Could you imagine like a bullet that you can shoot that also will reflect the laser bolts if it crosses their paths?
Dude, Revolver Ocelot.
I mean, he could do that kind of stuff, I
Hell
guess.
yeah.
Right?
I know, but like he could be even better.
Yeah, be sweet.
Yeah.
We need like a Jedi who has lightsaber guns.
Do we? After the whip and the Inquisitor sabers and me being like, I like a blade. You're
Now
like, let's
imagine
get a guns.
The lasers being shot that are made of lightsaber lasers and stuff.
That's what the Death Star
Oh
is.
man, that'd be so cool.
It's kyber crystals and
Yeah.
a big gun.
And how cool is that?
So cool they made it twice.
And 3 times if you count Starkiller.
or 7 times if you count Legends.
Yeah, sure. All right. I don't think I have. Did you have too much else with the?
Well, the
the
only
book
other
itself?
thing I think that I wanted to talk about was, because I'm always fascinated by the way different authors write lightsaber fights. Some of them get into like the precognition of a Jedi and the flow of the Force, but sometimes they talk about just single strikes and very like things like you're in the moment, like I went here and then I went here. But this one, I was like, oh, okay, so we're gonna lightsaber fight. I didn't expect this. This is interesting. And then like Vanestra just beat the crap out of Emery. Like, holy! I thought at least there was gonna be some stuff where it's like, oh, okay, well the dark side does make you more powerful. It's quicker, But Emery's more experienced. But like she just tossed him over the ship into the trees, like nothing. I was like, huh, that felt weird. Until the end of the book where she's made his new master, and I'm like, oh, that's why you do that. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. So that was really the only other thing that I had of note for it. But it was a fun book. It was a simple book.
It was, and
Yeah.
I assume there are characters that will maybe show up more within the High Republic. Like I feel like a few of these, and this one too, is like introducing characters that we will then see more as it goes on. Just like how Master Skier shows up here, but it's not his book, but he shows up.
Yeah.
Question from Al Hussein, who said, "A Test of Courage is the first middle grade novel you guys
Mm-hmm.
covered, as far as I know. Did you notice that much while reading?
Yeah.
It's definitely shorter, like by a lot.
It's also a very simple plot. Like, there's not a lot of intricate story threads that are getting pulled, and you're like, well, where are we going?
Yeah,
You generally know where you're going.
yeah. I did after reading it and stuff. I was like thinking like Coulson and Leon. I was like, you guys should read this book. I think you guys would enjoy it, and it's not a hard read. But like you said, the plot's fairly simple. Like that's why a lot of my notes are like, what are some little things and themes? Because like the general story is these people are on a ship.
Yeah.
The ship is destroyed, and we escape the ship, crash on a planet, and then we survive on the planet until we fight the people who destroyed the ship.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is the third High Republic thing, and that we've checked out, and I think that every book has given me characters that if they pop up again, I'm like, yeah, Yvonne's back, or
if J6 just came walking through somewhere, wait a minute, why is that droid acting weird?
Geode, like
Geode, yeah.
like
Geode. No, there's
all that
some
type
cool
of
stuff.
thing. Like when
Skier showed up in this
Skier
one, I was
shows
like,
up.
oh, dude, Master Skier,
Yeah.
cool. I like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, even though it's for a younger audience, if these characters show up in a book made for an older audience, I'm going to be very happy that I covered this one.
It's interesting because it's a tricky thing with High Republic, where I'm trying to make sure I remember, and I don't have a lot of connection to a lot of these characters.
Yeah.
So, like, when we go into, like, Catalyst, if someone shows up that's from, like, Andor, or someone from Clone Wars or Rebels, like, I have a bigger connection to that timeline and those characters that I connect dots a lot easier. Whereas this one, I'm trying to build those dots to connect them and make sure I remember those dots are things I can connect to. So when I have things like, oh, Trandoshans can grow back their arms, that's neat to something that I've already been a fan of for a long time. Mon Cal don't like it when I sneeze. Make sure I remember that if I ever meet a Mon Cal, just stuff like that. I mean, like, those are easier for me to like connect onto than like there's a name. Oh, dang, I swear I know that name, but where do I know that name from? And like I have to like either go back and look it up or figure out and just make sure I remember these characters that I've not spent my whole life watching and learning about and reading about or any of that. So, but no, so far I've liked a lot of different characters from these three books. I think that's the last one that's more book related, and we'll get into some of the other questions later on.
We'll be covering Catalyst next.
Catalyst will be the next book that we cover on the 22nd when Bad Batch comes out. Will be the next Badonkagong.
Bad bitch.